Ambassador Hannah Kim sat in her office aboard the Earth Embassy station, reviewing reports on her tablet. The station orbited the neutral planet where most galactic diplomacy happened. The room was simple but elegant, with a large window showing the stars and nearby planets. A small chime sounded. A message appeared on her screen, an invitation. It glowed with shifting colors, the mark of Vrikian communication technology. Hannah's eyes widened as she read. Supreme Commander Dak of the Vrikian Dominion requests the honor of your presence at his bonding ceremony with life partner Nivi. The sacred union will take place in 7 Earth days aboard the Grand Orbital Palace. Hannah couldn't believe it. Vrikians rarely invited outsiders to their most important ceremonies. This was a huge honor and a major diplomatic opportunity. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 15 years ago. Many older species still viewed them with suspicion or even contempt. The Vrikians were one of the few powerful allies humans had made. Their support had been crucial several times when other species tried to limit Earth's growing influence. Hannah pressed a button on her desk. "Tai, please come to my office." Minutes later, Tai Li entered. He was her most trusted aide. Brilliant, loyal, and thorough. He wore the standard dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, with a small medical device visible on his neck. "You look excited," Ta said, noticing her expression. "Supreme Commander Dak has invited us to his bonding ceremony," Hannah said, turning her screen so he could see. "This is huge for Earth-Vrikian relations." Tay's eyes scanned the invitation. Impressive. The Vrikians are notoriously private about their ceremonies. Exactly. This is our chance to strengthen our position. Hannah stood up and walked to the window. The council meeting on the military boundary dispute is just 3 days after the ceremony. If we solidify our relationship with the Vrikians, they'll back our position. Ta nodded. Very strategic timing on their part. "I want you to come with me as my ceremonial second," Hannah said. "You understand Vrikian customs better than anyone else on my staff." Ta hesitated. "I'm honored, but—" He touched the medical device on his neck. "My condition might complicate things." Ta had been born with a rare genetic modification that made certain protein structures toxic to his system. It was why he wore the medical alert device. It analyzed food and warned him of dangerous compounds. "Will that be a problem?" Hannah asked. "Vrikian ceremonies almost always involve ritual food sharing," Tai explained. "And their cuisine is rich in nectarin complexes, exactly what I can't process." Hannah waved away his concern. "The Vrikians have been dealing with different species for thousands of years. I'm sure they accommodate all sorts of dietary needs." "Should I send them information about my restriction?" Tai asked. Hannah considered this. Vrikians were proud, and suggesting they might not be proper hosts could offend them. At the same time, being transparent was important. "Send a general note thanking them for the invitation and mentioning we'll be bringing standard human medical equipment, including your dietary analyzer. Keep it casual, not like we're making demands." Todd didn't look convinced but nodded anyway. "I'll prepare the response immediately." "And start studying everything we know about their bonding ceremonies," Hannah added. "I don't want any surprises." After Tai left, Hannah turned back to the stars. This invitation could change everything for humanity's standing in the galaxy. Vrikian support would open doors with other powerful species. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Hannah and Tai studied Vrikian customs, practiced the formal greetings, and selected appropriate gifts. Captain Min of the diplomatic vessel Seoul prepared for the journey to the Vrikian orbital palace. The night before departure, Hannah found Tai in the ship's medical bay, talking with the doctor. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Just being cautious," Ta said. "Dr. Park is programming my device with additional Vrikian food information." "Smart," Hannah said. "But don't worry too much. The Vrikians invited us knowing we're human. They'll be prepared." As they left Earth's space, Hannah felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was the most significant diplomatic event since humans joined the Galactic Council. So much depended on making a good impression. What she didn't know was that this simple ceremony would soon trigger a crisis that would test both her skills as a diplomat and humanity's place among the stars. The Earth diplomatic ship approached the Vrikian orbital palace. Through the viewport, Hana and Tai stared in amazement. The palace looked like a massive crystal flower floating in space, with petals of transparent material that captured starlight and broke it into rainbow colors. "It's beautiful," Ta whispered. Their ship docked at one of the smaller petals. As the airlock opened, they were greeted by the sweet, spicy smell of Vrikian ceremonial incense. 2 tall Vrikian guards waited for them. Vrikians stood nearly 7 feet tall with slender bodies covered in scales that shifted colors with their emotions. Their head crests, now a peaceful blue color, rose slightly in greeting. "Ambassador Kim, Aid Lee, welcome," said the taller guard. "I am Kot, personal guard to Supreme Commander Dak. Please follow me." They walked through corridors where the walls seemed alive, flowing with liquid-like metal that formed decorative patterns. Other alien delegations moved through the palace. Some species Hana recognized, others she had never seen before. "The Vrikians have invited representatives from 37 worlds," Ta said quietly. "We're the newest species here by far." Kot led them to a large chamber where dozens of aliens gathered. At the center stood Supreme Commander Dak, his scales shimmering with gold and purple excitement patterns. Beside him was his mate-to-be, Nivi, her scales a deep, calm blue. Dak noticed them and approached. His translator converted his clicks and whistles to English. "Ambassador Kim, you honor us with your presence." His head crest extended fully, a sign of pleasure. Hana bowed in the Vrikian style. "The honor is ours, Supreme Commander. Earth values your friendship greatly. And this must be your ceremonial second," Dak said, turning to Ta. Tai performed the traditional greeting perfectly, touching his forehead, heart, and then extending his palm upward. "Very good." Dak seemed impressed. "Few off-worlders master our gestures so well." The ceremony began soon after. First came the Dance of Unions, where Dak and Nivi moved in perfect synchronization with the music. Then came the exchange of promises, where they shared their genetic memories using special technology that created visible light patterns above their heads. Hana and Ta watched carefully, following the cues of other guests about when to stand or bow. Everything was going perfectly until the final ritual approached, the Feast of Bonding. Servants entered carrying trays of food. The main dish was a blue, slightly pulsating substance in ornate bowls. When a server placed one before Ta, his medical device on his neck immediately flashed red. "Warning: contains nectarin complex proteins. Consumption will cause severe reaction," the device announced softly. Ta looked up to see Dak watching him. The Supreme Commander raised his bowl, indicating everyone should do the same. This was the crucial moment of the ceremony. All guests would eat together, symbolizing their unity in witnessing the bond. Todd whispered to Hana, "My device says I can't eat this." Hana glanced around nervously. "Maybe just pretend." "They're watching closely," Tay replied. "I need to ask for an alternative." He gently raised his hand to get a server's attention. The nearest Vrikian approached. "Excuse me," Ta said politely. "Is there perhaps an alternative option? My body cannot process this particular food." The server froze. Nearby conversations stopped. The server's scales turned a dark gray. A bad sign. "Is there a problem?" Supreme Commander Dak called from his place of honor. The server turned to Dak. "The human refuses the bonding feast, Supreme Commander." The room fell completely silent. Dak's scales shifted from gold to a deep red. His head crest flattened against his skull, a sign of extreme displeasure. "You reject our offering?" Dak asked, his voice no longer friendly. "No, not at all," Tai explained quickly. "I have a medical condition. This food contains compounds my body cannot process safely. Several Vrikians began whispering to each other. Nivi, the mate, looked embarrassed. Other alien delegates watched with interest or alarm. No guest has ever refused the bonding feast, Dak said coldly. It is the central symbol of our ceremony. To reject it is to reject the union itself. Hannah stepped forward. Supreme Commander, please understand. My aid has a biological restriction. It's not a choice or an insult. An older Vrikian official whispered something to Dak. His scales darkened further. You humans knew of our customs, Dak said. Yet you sent someone who would deliberately disrupt our most sacred moment. This is beyond insult. That wasn't our intention at all, Hannah pleaded. We respect your traditions deeply. But Dak had already turned away. The Vrikian guests were now showing patterns of shock and anger in their scale colors. The other alien delegates were backing away from the humans. Please leave the ceremony, said Kot, the guard who had first greeted them. His friendly demeanor was gone. Your presence is no longer welcome. As they were escorted out, Hannah realized with horror that years of careful diplomacy had just collapsed over a simple meal. The consequences would echo far beyond this one ceremony. The Earth Embassy was in chaos. Staff rushed through corridors carrying data tablets and urgent messages. Emergency lights flashed, indicating the diplomatic crisis level had been raised to severe. Hannah stood in the communication center, watching with dismay as reports flooded in. On the main screen, news broadcasts from across the galaxy covered what had happened at the Vrikian ceremony. Human delegates insult Vrikian leaders during sacred bonding ritual. Read one headline. Vrikian Dominion suspends all trade with Earth colonies, announced another. Tay sat nearby, his face pale with stress. This is all my fault. No, Hannah said firmly. You couldn't eat something that would make you sick. The Vrikians overreacted. Jun Park, their xenocultural specialist, entered the room carrying several data tablets. His expression was grim. It's worse than we thought, Jun said. The Vrikians have filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Council. They're accusing Earth of deliberate cultural sabotage and have suspended all diplomatic relations. That's ridiculous, Hannah exclaimed. Ta has a medical condition. Jun placed the tablets on the table. In Vrikian culture, refusing their ceremonial food is the deepest possible insult. It suggests you think they're trying to poison you. They believe we intentionally sent someone who would have to reject their offering. But that makes no sense, Ta said. Why would we want to insult them? Several species are suggesting exactly that, Jun explained. The Diraxians are claiming we wanted to sabotage our alliance with the Vrikians because we're secretly negotiating with their enemies. Hannah sank into a chair. This is a nightmare. A message alert sounded. Admiral Gill from Earth Central Command appeared on the main screen. Ambassador Kim, the situation has escalated, the Admiral said without greeting. The Vrikians have moved 3 battle cruisers to the border of our colony in the Proxima system. Several other species are now questioning our previous agreements. We need to fix this immediately, Hannah replied. Has Earth Central authorized an apology? The Admiral's expression hardened. We will not apologize for a medical condition. That would suggest humans with genetic differences are somehow lesser or should be hidden away. It goes against everything we stand for. Then what options do we have? Hannah asked. According to Galactic Council protocols, Jun said, we can file a grievance of accommodation. What's that? Tai asked. Essentially, we would be suing the Vrikians for failing to accommodate basic biological needs, Jun explained. It would force a formal hearing before the full council. Hannah looked shocked. We'd be taking our closest ally to court. Over dinner. It's not just about dinner anymore, the Admiral said. This has become about how humanity will be treated in galactic society. If we back down now, other species will assume they can discriminate against humans with different needs or abilities. Hannah paced the room. The council meeting on the military boundary dispute is in 5 days. We needed the Vrikians' support on that vote. "We have bigger problems now," the admiral replied. "File the grievance, Ambassador. This is now a matter of principle." After the call ended, Hana, Tai, and Jun sat in silence for a moment. "I never thought asking for different food would cause an interstellar incident," Ta said quietly. "This runs deeper," Jun explained. "Most established species in the galaxy evolved toward biological uniformity. The idea of a single species having significant internal variations is unusual. Some see it as weakness." Hannah made her decision. "Jun, prepare the grievance of accommodation. Tai, I need detailed medical documentation about your condition." "What's our strategy?" Jun asked. "We'll use this crisis to establish a clear precedent," Hannah said. "Humans are diverse by nature. That's our strength, not our weakness. If we're going to be part of the galactic community, they need to understand that." As they worked through the night preparing their case, news arrived that 3 more species had canceled diplomatic events with Earth. The Krell Empire had publicly sided with the Freakians, calling humans biologically unstable. The stock markets on Earth's colonies were falling as investors worried about the trade implications. In her private office, Hannah reviewed the file they would submit to the Council. This case would either establish humanity's right to be accepted with all their biological diversity, or set a dangerous precedent that could harm their position for generations. She thought back to the beautiful Crystal Palace and the moment it all went wrong. Such a small thing, a simple meal, had unleashed a diplomatic storm that now threatened everything humans had worked for since joining the galactic community. Tomorrow, they would take their case to the Galactic Council, where representatives of 300 species would judge whether human diversity deserved accommodation, or if it was, as some claimed, a weakness that made them unfit for galactic society. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. 300 species were represented in rising tiers of seats that circled a central platform. The chamber hummed with the soft sounds of various translation devices. Light from the nearby star filtered through the crystal dome ceiling, casting rainbow patterns across the floor. Hannah stood on the central platform with Ta beside her. They looked small, surrounded by the vastness of the chamber. Across from them, on a separate platform, stood the Vrekian delegation, led by Minister Lox, Supreme Commander Dak's chief diplomat. His scales showed patterns of confidence and righteous anger. The 9 members of the High Council sat on an elevated platform above everyone else. These judges represented the oldest and most respected species in the galaxy. The council leader, an ancient Tellurian whose crystalline body sparkled in the light, raised her hand for silence. "We gather to hear the human grievance of accommodation against the Vrekian Dominion," she announced, her translated voice echoing through the chamber. "This is the first such grievance filed by humanity since they joined our community 15 years ago." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates leaned forward with interest. "The Vrekian representative will speak first," the council leader said. Minister Lox moved to the center of his platform, his scales rippling with formal patterns. "Honored Council," he began, "the facts are simple. The humans accepted our invitation to a sacred bonding ceremony, knowing it involved shared consumption of ceremonial foods. Yet they sent a representative biologically incapable of participating." He gestured toward Todd with a sweeping motion. This was not an accident. It was a calculated insult, designed to disrupt a pivotal moment in our leader's life. Lox's scales darkened. Humans claim biological diversity as a strength, yet they use it as an excuse to ignore the customs of species who achieved genetic harmony millennia ago. The chamber remained silent as he continued. "If humans wish to join galactic society, they must adapt to established norms, not demand we change for their weaknesses." He pointed directly at Ta. "This human's inability to share in our feast symbolizes humanity's broader failure to truly join our community." When Lox finished, many delegates signaled agreement. The Krell representative's tentacles glowed with approval. The Diraxian delegate hissed softly in support. "Ambassador Kim, you may present Earth's position," the council leader said. Hannah stepped forward, her heart pounding. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Honored counsel, she began. Humans evolved on a planet with widely varying environments. To survive, we developed genetic diversity instead of uniformity. Some humans can digest substances others cannot. Some thrive in cold while others need heat. She activated a hologram showing human genetic variations across different populations. Lee's condition is not a choice or a weakness, Hannah continued. His body simply cannot process certain protein structures. Asking him to consume them would be like asking a filori to breathe oxygen instead of methane, or expecting a cridane to function in tropical heat. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably at these examples. The filori representative's breathing apparatus hissed slightly louder. The Vrikians claim we intended disrespect, but we did not. We expected reasonable accommodation. The same courtesy extended to all council members with biological requirements. Minister Locks interrupted. Comparing natural species differences to internal human variations is absurd. No other species has such unpredictable biological needs within their own kind. That is exactly my point, Hannah replied calmly. Human diversity is different, but difference is not inferiority. The very foundation of this council is that different biological needs deserve respect. The council chamber grew tense. Some delegates were nodding, while others signaled disagreement. The issue is not that you have differences, Locks countered, but that you expect ancient cultures to change their sacred traditions to accommodate your unpredictable biology. We ask only for information and options, Hannah said. Had we known the exact composition of the ceremonial food, we could have prepared. Had there been alternatives available, no disruption would have occurred. A high council conferred quietly among themselves. The Tellurian leader turned to Ta. Lee, you have been silent. Do you wish to address the council about your experience? Ta stepped forward, looking nervous but determined. Honored council, I deeply respect Vrikian traditions. I studied their customs extensively before attending. The medical device I wear, he touched the small unit on his neck, is not a statement of distrust, but a necessary protection. Had I consumed the ceremonial food, my reaction would have disrupted the ceremony far more severely than my polite request for an alternative. The council members exchanged glances. The Tellurian leader spoke again. This case raises important questions about accommodation versus tradition. We will now deliberate. The council will reconvene tomorrow with our decision. As delegates filed out, Hannah noticed several watching them with new curiosity. Some species that had kept distance from humans seemed to be reassessing their position. Did we do enough? Ta whispered. We made them think, Hannah replied. That's the first step. Outside the chamber, reporters from across the galaxy waited to transmit news of the unprecedented case. The decision would affect not just Earth-Vrikian relations, but humanity's place in the galactic order for generations to come. In the quiet town of Millbrook, where secrets had long been whispered behind closed doors, the final chapter of Sarah's journey unfolded with unexpected grace. The young woman who had survived years of hidden pain and silent struggle now stood at the crossroads of her destiny, her heart beating with a newfound courage that surprised even herself. Detective Michael Reynolds sat across from Sarah in the small, warm interview room. The walls seemed to hold their breath as she began to tell her story. Her voice, once trembling and uncertain, now rang with a clarity that cut through years of darkness. She spoke of the night everything changed, the moment she realized her own strength was more powerful than the shadows that had haunted her. The investigation had been long and complicated. Multiple witnesses, years of buried evidence, and a network of connections that seemed almost impossible to unravel had slowly come together. Sarah's testimony was the final piece that would bring justice not just for herself, but for others who had suffered in silence. As she recounted the details, Michael watched her transformation. The scared young woman he had first met months ago had become a pillar of resilience. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now blazed with determination. Each word she spoke was a step towards healing, not just for herself, but for the entire community that had been touched by this painful story. The truth came out in fragments, small pieces that, when put together, revealed a complex pattern of betrayal and survival. Sarah spoke about the night she discovered the full extent of the conspiracy, how she had gathered evidence carefully, protecting herself and others who might have been in danger. Her careful planning had been her shield, her intelligence her weapon. Outside the interview room, the town of Millbrook was changing. People who had once looked away were now listening. The silence that had protected wrongdoers was breaking, replaced by a collective voice of support and understanding. Sarah had become more than just a victim. She was now a symbol of hope for those who had been voiceless. Her family sat nearby, their support evident in every small gesture. Her mother's hand would occasionally touch her shoulder, a silent reminder of the love that had helped her survive. Her brother, once distant, now stood as her strongest defender, ready to protect her from any remaining threats. The legal proceedings that followed were complex but straightforward. Evidence was presented, testimonies were heard, and justice began to take shape. The people responsible for years of harm were finally facing the consequences of their actions. Each court session brought Sarah closer to complete healing. What made her story truly remarkable was not just the triumph over her past, but her ability to look forward. She had plans to help other survivors, to create support systems for those who felt alone. Her pain had been transformed into purpose, her suffering into strength. Michael watched with a mixture of professional pride and personal respect. He had seen many cases, but Sarah's journey was different. She hadn't just survived, she had decided to thrive. Her courage had not only brought her personal justice, but had sparked a broader conversation about protection, support, and healing. As the final legal documents were signed and the last statements recorded, Sarah felt a sense of peace she had never known before. The weight of years of silence and fear had been lifted. She was free, not just from her past, but to create a future of her own design. The town of Millbrook would remember this moment. A young woman who had been pushed into the shadows had stepped into the light, her story becoming a beacon of hope for others. Her resilience showed that healing was possible, that silence could be broken, and that one person's courage could change everything. In the end, Sarah's story was not just about what had happened to her, but about what she chose to do afterward. She chose hope. She chose healing. She chose to transform her pain into something powerful and meaningful. As the sun set on Millbrook, casting a warm golden light through the courthouse windows, Sarah smiled. A smile that spoke of survival, of strength, and of a future filled with possibility.